Okay, everybody, we're talking about chapter 4, getting you guys ready for exam 3. There's really two big focuses. First of all, you need to know what the definition of consciousness is in terms of waking consciousness and awareness of those things that are around you and within you. And then unconscious are things that you're not aware of. The different topics in this chapter have to do with um, what you experience in those different levels of consciousness. Obviously, the drug part had to do with how different drugs change your perception of what you're aware of. Obviously, sleep is a time when we're very much aware of inner things, but not outward things. And then hypnosis is really a deep state of relaxation and a dissociation. Dissociation is kind of separating your mind into two different compartments. One focuses on one thing, one focuses on another. A very common daily activity that we all do that is basically hypnosis, obviously far from the level and strength of hypnosis, is daydreaming. When you're daydreaming, your attention is focused on whatever you're thinking about. And even though you're right there in a room talking with somebody talking, let's say it's in a class, um, you aren't aware of what the teacher is saying, nor could you remember it. Your mind is basically somewhere else while the remainder is in that room with a general sense of what's going on, but not really a specific sense of what's going on. In hypnosis, your unconscious mind is paying close attention to the hypnotist, and that's why it is so obedient. Your unconscious mind doesn't edit. Your unconscious mind doesn't know shame or nervousness or anything like that. Our unconscious is like a newborn child or an infant or a toddler that really doesn't know the limitations on the world and wants to run at everything and put everything in its mouth and experience everything and doesn't have any sense of shame. Doesn't really know that, doesn't really care if it has clothes on or not, all those types of things. Our conscious mind is what comes up with a sense of shame, a sense of nervousness, a sense of editing what we do. And so the conscious mind in hypnosis is kind of a spectator. The big focus is obviously sleep. And make sure you understand the stages of sleep. Make sure you understand REM sleep, what the value of it is in terms of that stage of sleep. It repairs our bodies. It strengthens our immune system. It cements learning. REM sleep is by far the most important stage of sleep for our health. And then we have stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 of sleep, so 5 total stages of sleep. We sleep 25 years of our life. If you live to be the average lifespan of an adult today in the United States, which is about 75 years, you spend about a third of your life sleeping. So it's amazing how little attention we devote to an activity that's such a big part of our lives. Make sure you understand the different sleep disorders, what they're all about. The majority of them occur in deep sleep stages 3 and 4, and the majority of them we outgrow as we get older. The only one that tends to get worse as we get older is sleep apnea, which afflicts quite a few adults and has to do with a stoppage, basically a brief stoppage of getting oxygen into the lungs, into the brain. And when your brain doesn't get enough oxygen, it wakes you up. Now, in sleep apnea, you don't wake up so you're fully conscious, but you wake up enough to take a really good breath. And people with bad sleep apnea, that might happen to them hundreds of times an hour. And the only treatment for that is a calibrated oxygen machine, which keeps your airstream open. So make sure you understand that our sleep is governed by a circadian rhythm. It's on a 24-hour cycle. It's triggered by darkness. The chemical in our brain that actually puts us to sleep is melatonin. This is a supplement you could actually buy over the counter. I'm sure many of you have taken melatonin. Melatonin is the only purely natural sleep aid out there. In terms of our sleep cycle, we go through all 4 stages of sleep and REM sleep about every 90 minutes. So if we sleep about 8 hours, we have 4 to 5 episodes of REM or dream sleep, which total around an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. So we sleep as humans, and we sleep at night for specific reasons. First of all, we sleep to restore our health. You need sleep to survive. Technically speaking, if you are kept awake endlessly, you would die. And we also sleep at night, and we sleep in the way we do to keep us safe. You have to think about the history of mankind. When is the most dangerous time to be around? Whether it's prehistoric times or modern times, it's at night. And so that's the reason why our brain has us sleep at night, and it immobilizes us. It keeps us in a safe place for the entire night. And actually, when you are in REM sleep, your body really doesn't move. Your brain kind of cuts off nerve impulses to your large muscle groups at your neck, so that you really can't act out your dreams unless you have a REM disorder, and that's kind of beyond the scope of our chapter. But if you've ever heard of people using the sleepwalking defense in criminal cases where they claimed, and sometimes successfully, not often, but sometimes successfully claimed that the reason why they murdered somebody was because they were sleepwalking, therefore they're not really responsible for it. This is a REM disorder. This is being able to move around and act out your dreams in REM sleep. It's not normal sleepwalking, which is a stage 4 phenomenon. So make sure you understand the electrical activity in our brain at various stages of sleep. When we're awake, it's very, very quick alpha waves or beta waves. And then as we fall asleep, we go through more deep, less frequent brain waves. We get into alpha, and then at the very, very deepest sleep, it's delta wave sleep. Let's see. Dreams. Obviously, dreams have been an important and often discussed topic in psychology. Sigmund Freud came up with the first comprehensive theory of dreams. This was over 100 years ago. Freud's really the father of psychology, and we'll talk a lot more about Freud in the next chapter. But Freud basically became famous when he published his book, The Interpretation of Dreams. And Freud saw dreams as our unconscious mind speaking to us, as was the language of the unconscious. So for us to understand what's deep down within us, we had to understand what our dreams were saying. And the psychoanalyst, or the psychologist of the day, was the interpreter of the dreams. So dreams had what's called manifest content, which is literally what the dream was about. You know, last night I dreamt, for example, that, and I didn't dream this last night, but if I had a dream that I was with my aunt and uncle at dinner, and we were eating a pizza, and all of a sudden my uncle took the pepperoni off and threw it at my aunt, that would be manifest content. The latent content, according to Freud, is what the dream means, what its symbolic value is. Over time, we now understand that dreams are much more just an outcome of our brain's electrical activity while we're sleeping, and that REM sleep has far more of a biological and psychological benefit for us than any kind of symbolic meaning. I realize that this doesn't make dreams nearly as interesting, and most dreams are actually boring. In sleep studies where people are hooked up to an EEG, we can tell exactly when you go into REM sleep by the EEG readings. So once you go through a REM period, we wake the person up immediately and ask them what they dreamt. If you wake up right after a dream, you remember all of it. One of the reasons, by the way, we don't remember our dreams is because we have 4 and 5 a night, and our brain is in a very different state than it is when we're awake. So when we're awake, our brain is trying to remember something that occurred at a time where it was very, very different. Everybody dreams, and everybody dreams in just about the same regularity every night. Just some people are better at remembering them. But anyway, when we do wake up people right after their dreams and we have them report what their dreams were about, 80% of the content is very, very boring. It's almost like a to-do list. very, very few of our dreams, a very small percentage, are super interesting and emotional. And I know you guys probably have a lot of questions about dreams. My students always do. If you die in your dreams, you won't die. All the myths you've heard about dreams aren't true. Make sure you understand, though, that the activation synthesis hypothesis is our best explanation of what dreams are today. And that is basically that our cerebral cortex, which is our thinking brain, is pretty inactive when we're sleeping because we're not conscious. However, our brainstem, our limbic system, it's keeping us alive. And so there's a lot of activity, electrical activity deep within our brain. That electrical activity bubbles up and stimulates our cerebral cortex, stimulates memories, stimulates emotions, stimulates things we've thought about. And our brain is built, that part of our brain, our cortex, is built to make sense out of all these various things. That's what it does. That's how it functions. So it takes the memories, the emotions, the things we've been thinking about, and it puts it all together in a story, and that's what a dream is. Our brain is built, our cortex is built to make sense out of stimulation. When we're awake, it makes sense out of what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell. When we're sleeping, it makes sense of what's stimulated from within. That's the activation synthesis hypothesis. In terms of all the different drugs, just make sure you have studied, what's been in the videos and it's in the book in terms of the classification of drugs: stimulants, hallucinogens, depressants, and I think that's it. Stimulants, hallucinogens, depressants are the main ones I want you guys to know. And obviously, depressants depress the central nervous system. They cause us to be tired. They're mostly addictive. Stimulants, amphetamines, things like that are mostly not addictive. They kind of get our heart to race. They stimulate our central nervous system. They tend to make us nervous, anxious, tend to make us perceive things in a more fearful way. Hallucinogens obviously cause us to experience things that aren't actually there. Visual wise, seeing things that aren't there, auditorily hearing things that aren't there. Those are not physically addicting. And there's some famous ones like LSD that actually can take several hours to go on an LSD trip. Things like that. Addictive substances are addictive because they have a short half-life. They're addictive for a number of reasons, but the main thing is the shorter the half-life of a drug, the more addictive it is. Half-life is about how quick it gets to maximum impact. So, for example, cocaine has a half-life of about 30 minutes. So that's pretty addictive. That's pretty short. A Vicodin, which is a form of morphine, a derivative of morphine, about 45 minutes. Very addictive. But just to give you a point of comparison, shooting heroin, smoking crack, heroin is nearly instantaneous, just a couple seconds, and crack cocaine, instead of 30 minutes of snorting cocaine, crack cocaine maxes out in 7 seconds. Much more addictive than obviously powdered cocaine in terms of snorting. So make sure you study those classifications of drugs, the individual drugs within them. The most addictive drug out there, based on the number or the percentage of people that try it, that become addicted, is nicotine. Nicotine is the number one gateway drug, by the way, to harder drugs. The most addictive drug, by the definition of how difficult it is to come off of it, is heroin. Heroin is the most dangerous drug that you'll study in the book. The dose to get you high in terms of heroin is just about a lethal dose. That's why it's unfortunately quite common and tragic for folks to die with a needle in their arm. If you injected pure heroin, you would die. So when people are buying it and using it, it's cut with other substances, cornstarch, other substances like that. And the idea is get it as pure as possible without killing you. And obviously you're playing with something very, very dangerous and incredibly addictive with heroin. Make sure you understand that under hypnosis, you wouldn't do anything that you wouldn't do under, consciously. You wouldn't do anything immoral that you wouldn't normally do. So I can't hypnotize somebody and turn them into a killer for myself or anything like that. Kind of like the Manchurian Candidate, the movie The Manchurian Candidate. Hypnosis is very much a deep state of relaxation where we're highly suggestible because of how prominent our unconscious mind is. When we're drunk, our conscious mind is very, very repressed and our unconscious mind is heightened. That's why we do all kinds of crazy things when we're drunk. Not that I know personally, but that when we're drunk than we would when we're sober. Same thing in our hypnosis. And our memory of it is about the same too. Mostly we remember what happened to us under hypnosis, however. The number one use of hypnosis in a professional scientific sense is medical hypnosis. It's a great form of pain relief, anesthesia even for surgery and dentistry and things like that. But again, at its heart, it's a form of dissociation, deep state of relaxation where we are highly suggestible. Just about everybody can be hypnotized. However, the more suggestible you are, the easier it is. So if you're suggestible in your everyday life, you're very influenced by advertising, by sales pitches, by what people say to you, you're an easy candidate to be hypnotized. If you are the opposite, you're a difficult candidate to be hypnotized. When you go to a stage hypnotist show and they ask for volunteers and some people raise their hand and say, oh, me, that's a sign that I'm really suggestible. So that's why those shows work out so well. The power is not in the hypnotist, it's in the suggestibility of the person being hypnotized. Great video that I posted on hypnosis. It's a TED Talk. Make sure you check that out. Other than that, boy, I think that's about it. I think I've covered just about everything that's going to be on the exam. This particular chapter isn't loaded with content, so make sure you focus. Sleep, hypnosis, psychoactive drugs. Go over your notes on the videos, go over your reading, and you should be in great shape. Format, the exact same as the first two, the last exam. 38 points multiple choice, 3 short answer questions worth 4 points apiece, just like exam 2. Same as always, it'll open up at noon on Wednesday. It'll close at midnight. You have 60 minutes to take the test once you start. 1 question at a time. You can't go back. You got to give the answer. But you have 60 minutes, plenty of time to take the test. And our next chapter after that is personality, but I'm sure you're not worried too much about that right now. So good luck. If you have any questions, post them in the discussion board on Blackboard under Chapter 4 questions. See you guys soon. Bye.